Hi, my name is Braston Henry and I'm a developer advocate at IBM, and thank you so much for checking out my first ever video blog. Today I'll be talking about what are containers and how video games have inspired my containerization journey. So without further ado, let's get into it. When I was a kid, I had a Nintendo 64 gaming system, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, one big reason was because of the games, and another big one was because I could play with my friends and families. But one thing that stood out to me at the time when I'm comparing it to other gaming systems was its cartridges. The reason the Nintendo 64 game cartridge stood out to me was because of its portability. Not just that I could bring it to my friend's house, but when I brought my game, it also brought my game files, my customizations, and my personalizations. Like every little thing that I had was contained in that little cartridge, and it didn't matter where I went. As long as the person had a Nintendo 64 gaming system, we could play it. Now as an adult and as a professional programmer and developer, I'm now seeing that feature I saw in video games show up in code development and code deployment. That feature now resides in the power of containers. So the question might be, why do containers matter? Well, if you've ever worked in, the coding world, either professionally or personally, you've probably run into the idea of dependencies. Dependencies being those things like configuration files or libraries or just anything that you need to build and or deploy your project. You might run into dependencies when you're creating a Node.js project that needs to manage some type of microservice for a larger application, or it might just be for, a personal website that you need to deploy to some server somewhere. But either way, when it comes down to it, dependencies matter. And that's where containers shine. They allow you to move your application from environment to environment while keeping your dependencies intact. That means reduced migration efforts, quicker deployment times, and even more importantly, the freedom to move your application to anywhere you desire. Traditionally, when working on projects, you couldn't just really bring your dependencies with you. When you deployed to a new environment, sometimes it was almost like starting over. I can't even count how many times I would have something working in my local environment, and then I'd say push to the cloud, and I just run into all kind of issues, errors that I just didn't make any sense. And it would come down to some, weird build error that came down to maybe a library's versioning or some configuration file on a server that I had no control over, and would make me have to change my local machine to match the server. Sometimes it's just as simple and things work, but sometimes it would cause, massive code rework and sometimes the removal of certain features. But with the immense portability that is allowed with containers, frustrating situations like I just described in deployment and development will be a thing of the past. I truly believe that understanding the power of containers will be a top skill for all future programmers, developers, and engineers. So your next question may be, so what do containers even bring to the table at all? So here's a quick look at some of the high-level benefits of containers. Extensive portability. Containers allow you to move your application and its dependencies between environments. As long as your new environment supports containers, you're good to go. Standardization. Using containerization tools such as Docker ensures more consistent procedures of application deployment and implementation. Faster deployment. Containers allow for developers to deploy to different environments with less code changes or rework to application code or configurations. Containers ensure that application in your local environment will work the same in any containerized environment you deploy to. Deployment flexibility. Containers allow teams to deploy to varying hosting environments. That includes on-premise, public cloud, or private cloud hosting environments. In summary, just like my time playing the Nintendo 64 with friends wherever I went, containers now give you the power to take your application wherever you go. Containers ensure that application code and dependencies transfer intact from environment to environment. This allows for maximum portability and standardized deployments with increased deployment speed and flexibility. Containers are an extremely powerful tool, and there's no better time than now to dig deeper and learn all about them. Thank you again for checking out my video blog, and I look forward to learning with you all in the near future. Thank you again for checking out this video blog. Please like and subscribe below. If you're interested in learning more about containers, please check out the description below. There's great articles and videos that'll definitely help you on your containerization journey. Look forward to seeing you guys again in the future. Take it easy.